Good morning, everybody. John Svickler here for GAI Insights, bringing you the Gen AI news. We have Luda Kopina, Paul Beyer, Ankash Mohindru, and we've got a lot of interesting stuff here. Everything from Anthropic's new measurements of the actual use of the tool, all the way through some really interesting stuff for Verisk in terms of improving their customer service. All right, Ankash, if you could give us the first article, please.
Sure, John. So the first one that we have for today comes from VentureBeat, and it is titled OpenAI will start asking for a ID in some cases as part of ChatGPT protection.
Yes, one version of self-regulation here. They're deciding to try to see the age of use patterns and give parents more control. What do you think here, Luda?
Yeah, I rated this article important because I think the leaders need to know that this is progressing and this is what's happening. It wouldn't impact the operations necessarily that much. It's just that they need to be aware of the news. So as you know, the OpenAI was sued when a teenager committed suicide after consulting ChatGPT on what he should do. And since then, there was lots of discussions of how to deal with these type of situations with the bots. And so it's not surprising that OpenAI is planning on doing that and giving parents controls. So there will be an option of linking accounts, and parents can have various levels of visibility or setup into the teenager's account that I don't think would like. Control, as John, you put it. But optional to important for me.
What do you think here, Paul?
Yeah, I mean, huge topic. I think for enterprise, it's important. But yeah, Luda, I mean, I think we all know the downside of social media. I know there's been some legislation in Texas on pornography for kids. I don't know how effective that's been. I think from a hyperscaler and OpenAI standpoint, this is a great reason to get a lot more data on people. It's a really tricky situation, but it's outside the enterprise, so definitely not essential.
Yeah, it can backfire, really. It's very difficult to put this type of controls in. Yep.
Yeah, I was going to give it. I was between optional and important. I could give it an important. But let's get to Akash. What do you think, Akash?
No, John, I think this is an important news. Everybody who is using, we saw yesterday, 700 million people are using ChatGPT, right? So it's a big number, and a change like this can impact their users in terms of their numbers going down as well, because as Paul was mentioning that there can be repercussions here. So certainly an important news.
And I think the other thing is that, I mean, TikTok has taken off because they've optimized, obviously, attention and repeat usage. OpenAI hasn't yet done that, but boy, they're getting enough information out there that they're going to start knowing, hey, what's the suggested next topic? They can start doing it. So I think they're inches away from moving to an attention economy if that's what they want to go. I don't think they want to drive that much more usage right now because of the cost, but boy, they've got the data to do it.
But Paul, I think they're already
Okay.
in the attention economy. So I have tried shifting my usage from ChatGPT to Gemini to Claude. So I have tried all of that, but I come back to ChatGPT every time.
No, yeah, but
So
my point, because they aren't yet, at least from mine, is making other suggestions. Paul, you were researching AI. How about here's something about Celtics? Here's the interesting fact about Boston.
I wouldn't like that. No, thank you.
Well,
another boss.
I think, I mean, the level of transparency to the government and control, to these companies, I think, is this whole issue of, as we share our dialogues with the machines at a deeper level in terms of the work we do and also what we're trying to accomplish. The opportunity for monitoring and surveillance, continues to go up, and not that we need to go up anymore. So it's a really interesting area. I'm going to rate it important, something that the ad leader should be aware of, but not essential. All right, next.
Okay, the next one comes from Anthropic, and this is part of their Anthropic they are talking about the geographic and enterprise AI adoption.
I was on this. I was going to make the case for essential here. This again, amazing that we can see what it's used for. Much more used for education science than I would have expected. It's going up over time. We see the richer getting richer, if you will. That wealthier areas, more educated people are generally tending to go up. Not surprisingly, the API use is more for automation than it is for dialogue, but this fine-grained expectation of what's going on in the economy by these model builders is just amazing. The OpenAI one as well, because we've never had this kind of fine-grained look at knowledge work on a global basis, and it also, to me, screamed out the fact that we really have to start thinking about how we can get more AI access to everyone, because the rich are getting richer on this one, it looks like, and we don't need any more of that, my opinion. But anyway, I was going to make a case for essential. It's a long read, but a good read, and well written, well researched. What do you think, Luda?
Yeah, there are two. I was going essential for two reasons. One, that they, for the first time, they tell us that the enterprise data and what this is used for. Granted, this is Anthropic, and most of their use cases are coding, but still it's across industries, and they give us a glimpse of what's happening in applications are actually being used or being explored on Anthropic platform. So that's one. And the second one is that they open this data up. It's public data, open for perusal for anybody and usage. So I think that's a critical and important point as well. So I think it's essential from that perspective, because directionally, if you are looking at a particular application in an industry, you can see, you can get some data of what's happening in that industry.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah, and some of the people who had this in the physical world, like FedEx and UPS and so forth, were under contract to not share it. So it's fascinating that these folks are coming in at a different angle. Yeah, what do you think, Yaron?
I'm essential as well on this, John.
All right, Paul?
Essential.
All right, essential it is. Thank you, the folks of Anthropic. Ankaj, next.
Okay, the next one comes from Google, and this is a research paper around virtual agent economies.
All right, I think you are on to review it for us, Ankaj.
Yes, John. So basically, this is a thought paper from Google talking about AI agents creating a new economy called, which they are calling a sandbox economy, or they are proposing a framework called sandbox economy to analyze this new economic layer where agents will interact, trade with each other, and they are sort of analyzing it through two dimensions. One is origins, one is permeability. So basically what they are saying is that this new economic layer will be highly emergent and will permeate with the human economy as well. Then they talk about the opportunities in this new economic layer and the challenges that we can face, and then talk about some of the design choices on how we can be more proactive and intentional in designing the agent economies. So while it's an interesting discussion, I think this is
All right,
now
optional for the AI leader, Luda,
AI
what are you on this?
Oh, I was very frustrated by this article. It's like, yeah, we can create that sandbox, but the genie is out of the box. It's running out there, and they talk about permeability. Yes, it's a great parameter, but you can't control it. Not anymore. The genie is out of the box. So it's a good thought paper, except so what, right? So totally optional for me. I think it's, yeah, it's good thinking, but not useful.
Paul?
Totally optional.
Yeah. I'll just say this is horrendously ignorant, this thing. This points to the absolute lack of social science education. And I know, Marvin Minsky snarkily said any science that needs to put science in its name ain't a science. But anyway, the social science education, is just devoid of any depth. I'm surprised at Person University of Toronto here. I thought you had a good education up there. The Google DeepMinds. Yeah, look, this is old areas that were better thought through in economic work on the relationship between hierarchies and markets, and transaction cost economics would be at the center of it. The work of Ronald Coase. I mean, he wrote the stuff in the 50s, but the year I was born, and then he won the Nobel Prize for it in 1995. Yeah, this is hierarchies and markets. Is way better thinking on this thing than what's in here. Just a waste of time calling it a sandbox, permeability. It's a bunch of money. Anyway,
Well,
way off.
True that if somebody, government or somebody, actually some government body or some group of companies got together and actually started working with the setting parameters for permeability, putting this sandbox in place that you can try agents and networks of agents in that group, controlling the risks. Yes, I would vote for that great time, but who will do that and how it will be done? That's where the problem is.
John, I'm glad you pulled back on how you feel. That's really
Yeah, no, look, they stuffed this thing in a robot, in their robot 2.5, Gemini 2.5, and said, give me other work, especially in the field of economics and transaction cost economics that's relevant to this paper, and how I prove it. They'd have to rewrite it. I'm telling you. So anyway, nothing like the confidence of the ignorant. All right.
Okay, moving on to the next one. So this one talks about the rise of sub-agents.
All right, we have the rise of sub-agents here, which kind of suspiciously looks like subroutines, but let's see, who do we have on this? I'm sorry, I haven't got who's
you are on
next.
it. You are on it.
I'm on it too. Oh, great, excellent, yes. Again, not to sound like the old fart, but to be the old fart, these are subroutines. Hey, we've discovered subroutines, and we call them agents. They're encapsulated functional things that you send messages to, and they send stuff back. I think that's called a subroutine. So absolutely optional. These guys should, again, it drives me a little bit batty, just a little bit of history and, reading, but books and things with spines on them, would help. Anyway.
Well, John, maybe on that is that we can develop the GPT that we can tell people they should put the article in to ask them to get some academic background before they start publishing stuff here.
Right. Well, my wife had when she's going for a PhD, she had a wonderful guy named Herb Wesleyan, and Herb used to say, if you copy from one source, it's plagiarism. If you copy from two, it's a master's, and if you copy from three or more, it's a PhD. So there you go. Yeah, no, but seriously, I mean, look, it's the only reason I rail against this, I don't care if people reinvent stuff. I'm sure I've reinvented stuff that people thought of, but if sometimes they do a worse job reinventing it. Like that whole thing about the sandbox thing, they did a worse job reinventing the idea of quasi markets and transaction cost, and it's already known. So it's you're making a new knife, but the knife is way duller than knives we already have on the shelf on the knife holder. It's just nuts.
Well, John, to give them a little bit of credit, this is not quite that, right? So they do talk about those sub-agents as subroutines, and their point is that currently those are controlled. And we had an article about when the agents actually do their own thing and are totally autonomous, and they can create their own agents, then it becomes less predictive and less control. And so they're talking about subroutines when they get the autonomy level, but they don't come up with any instructions or practices to how to deal with this. So that's, I think, we currently, the other article was setting up the world for the future, right? This one doesn't do that. So I agree with you on optional, but that's the point I think they were trying to make, but made it very badly.
The big O?
Yes, John, optional.
And we have a really good core competence, John, that optional. We beat the hell out of these articles.
There you
So
go.
this is yet another one.
All right. Next, Akash.
Okay. Yes, moving on to the next one. This one comes from the word labs and talks about generating bigger and better worlds.
Yeah, what did you think here, Luda?
It is stunning. And now you have the capability to build little movies and export them into other places and work with them in other environments. So pretty stunning, but limited to the audience is still limited to creatives and only 3D movie type of creatives. So I gave it an optional everyday miracle.
Optional here. What do you think, Paul?
You know, I agree. Everyday miracle. I'm just so emotionally blown away by stuff like this, Luda. I almost want to say, I'm not strongly advocating that it's essential because it shows the AI leader where the boundaries is in these other areas, so he and she can at least think about that and how it could apply potentially there. I mean, what does this mean for exploring a new for real estate companies and exploring a space, or exploring a new marketing campaign, or our internal training people thinking about this here? And that might be 2 steps away, but it's breathtaking. These are whole new vectors of value creation and articulation and communication that's 2 orders of magnitude different than what us monkey brains have been used to.
Totally, Paul. Absolutely. And that's why I was looking at it and saying, well, this is cool. Really, really, really cool. But the usage of it is...
Yeah, I don't know, Akash, scroll down a little too. Oh, there we go. Get some. What do you think, Akash?
John, I was optional on this, but so Fifi Lee, she has been called the grandmother of artificial intelligence, and this is her startup, World Labs. And basically, I was listening to her interview, and she was saying that the current large language models, because they are all based on text, they won't help us structure, or let's say design the natural world, because the natural world, it doesn't have any language. So the way to understand that or simulate that is to do it in the natural surroundings, to do it in the 3D environments, and that's why she has taken this particular route to develop models which can simulate the real environment for us.
It's really, I completely agree with what she's saying, and I think I was on the fence between important and essential. Let me make the case for essential. If you step back, I think what we're going to see is amazing progress in 4 or 5 big areas that are eventually going to converge, or at least be able to interoperate. And one is language, which is very well developed. Another one of these real world models, and I think that the real world models, I think, are going to get incredibly well developed from 2 dimensions. One is going to be from gaming, and the other is going to be gaming and entertainment, and then the other is going to be from the military, because the military is going to want really good real world models for all kinds of reasons. And and that is going to have a different developmental structure, as Fei points out, because you're going to start from a different semantics and a different kind of modeling, right? So that's going to be a big area. We have language. I think we're going to get molecules and different parts of the human body, especially compounds that intervene. I think we're going to have materials, like materials science, and then we'll probably have a couple others. And these models will fundamentally, like the young man who's at MIT, who's building up a large language model using medical data about the human body, right? He made the same point Fei did, which is if you start with a different semantic architecture, if you will, that's embedded in any data, you've different. So I think over the next 3 to 5 years, we're going to have each of those develop, and then when all those start interoperating, it's going to be amazing. And real world models, they're going to drive robotics, they're going to drive instruction, they're going to drive entertainment, they're going to drive warfare. It's just going to be so. That's why I was going to make the case that at least important, maybe essential.
But why this particular article? We've seen quite a bit of great video production platforms, right, or tools. And besides, I mean, I agree with you on the trend. important, and I agree with you on what how the merger potentially can happen. But I don't know whether this article spells any of this.
Alrighty.
Who's got the chalk today?
John,
Oh,
I know where that's going.
I'm gonna
why
go.
are we debating
All
it?
right.
I know.
All right.
It's a waste of time.
Okay, we're going important.
All right.
John, before you leave, I thought the paragraph you had just was really good. But I know you and I are starting to think about what our opening 5 or 6 minutes of the conference is in 11 days. And this whole concept of making sure the conference attendees know these 5 or 6 new areas are exploding beyond text, I think is a really important one that I think you articulate well. And I think most people aren't thinking about it because they're just within the text world. I was at a meeting yesterday with Flybridge. Had a meeting. I think it was like 15 to 20 MIT entrepreneurs, and one of the entrepreneurs there was talking about the challenge of analyzing video. So if you look at a frame and the cat's in the air, it's like, will the cat go down or up, or understanding of that? And there's some people actually starting to look at it. So this whole notion of how to get value out of spatial stuff is really, whole greenfield.
Yeah, and vital. And we just have to remember how this is central to warfare. So it's going to get funded.
That is true. That is true.
Yeah. Okay. All righty. Last one, Ankash.
Okay, the last one comes from AWS, and it is a case study how Verisk has brought automation to a highly manual process.
Yes, Verisk, interesting company. Actually, a classmate of mine from Harvard Business School built it into a big business. What did you think here? Was it Ankash, I think, right?
Yep.
Yes, John. So this is an interesting case study, John. Something which generative AI is highly suitable for. So basically, Verisk in its ISO electronic rating content business, they were facing the challenge that every time there were changes in the insurance ratings, they had to, or customers had to manually compare content across the new and the previous version, and they would spend hours locating those differences. So what Verisk did was, with Anthropic's Claude and Amazon Bedrock, they have now introduced a chat style assistant, which can tell you exactly what changed between 2 ISO releases without downloading or even comparing those full packages. And they are using a variety of Amazon stuff here. So Amazon Bedrock for the entire platform. They are using OpenSearch Service List for RAG retrieval, Claude 3.5 Sonnet for the natural language interactions, and then Amazon's own Titan for embeddings for indexing. And it also highlights how they were able to achieve stuff which was done in days, reducing it to hours. So economic benefits as well, details of the case study as well. So I believe highly important or essential case study, this one from Amazon.
Okay, you can't leave me on the fence here, buddy. You got to come down one side of the fence.
Essential for me. Essential for me.
All right, essential it is. Luda.
Yes, I agree. It has all these parameters. It's huge documents, mass of them, very complex, ability to digest them, chunk them, put them semantically and analyze them, and giving it to the customers who don't necessarily have any insight into what's happening in the system, but they pull the value. I think it's a very powerful case. So essential.
All right. We lost Paul here. I was on the fence between important and essential. I could head for essential. Works for me. All right. Essential it is. Great case study. Once again, AWS leading the pack on case study detail. All right. In terms of announcements, we just have our conference coming up on the 29th and 30th. We have about 500 people registered. There is some room still. We'd love to have folks there. We're going to go in the leading edge of the practical. And don't forget, we have investors, executives who are doing real implementation, new vendors that are coming up with wonderful new solutions, as well as academics studying the problem. So it's really about upskilling you and your organization and going an idea of what, where reality is versus hype. Come see us, Heinz Center in Boston. All right, Ankash, any announcements? Luda?
Yeah, and just to second what you said about the conference, I will lead a panel. There will be 3 women who are driving AI implementation in different industries and sharing what they've learned from this process, what to do and what not to do. So absolutely practical and insightful conference.
Great. All righty, and Ankash, we'll get the top board coming up in a minute. We have 2 essentials. I think, was it 2 importance and 2 optionals? Do I remember that right?
Correct.
All righty.
Great, John.
Okay. All right, everybody, we're going to head on home. So we got Anthropic, and we have the AWS case study with Verisk. Those are the essentials. Please read those. You'll find them useful, and look forward to talking to you all tomorrow. Have a great AI day, evening, whatever.